of Love and Light, here with my wonderful friend and co-host, Gretchen Comer. We're both spiritual healers, guides, coaches, and just, I think, all around spiritual enthusiasts whose greatest joy is bringing the vast realms of spirit into our lives and opening to more love and light for ourselves and for the world. With that as an overview, our topic this week is we become the stories we tell ourselves. And I think it's with the new year coming and the opportunity to look at to shift our perspective in a positive way and tell a new story about ourselves. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So the message of the card is that we are the author. Oh, I didn't mention, I have to backtrack a little bit. I drew a card from a really wonderful oracle deck a few days ago. It's called the Secret Language of Light. And I often draw cards from it in the evening and when I'm preparing to retire for inspiration. So this card that I received is, it's called Soul Writing. And the idea is that we are the authors of our own stories. And the frequency of this card, all of the cards in this deck they have light frequencies in them that you can connect with just by gazing at them. And this one is supporting us in writing stories that inspire us and help us to take an expanded view of who we are and opening to new ways of viewing our experiences and our potential as magnificent spiritual beings. At least that's the way, that's the message and a little bit of my own interpretation. So with the new year upon us, and with it the opportunity to create the most magical, mystical, expansive stories imaginable, however you want to define them, there's a lot to explore here. And there could be more than one story that you're looking at for different aspects of your life too. So anyhow, something's waiting to be born. And I see that, I really feel that so much with the idea of the birth of Jesus, that it's not just the birth of Jesus that we're celebrating if we're Christian, and we don't have to be Christian. It is the birth of something new in ourselves. And that's very profound when you think about it. So we're also going to invite an archangel to support us to create the most magical story. And we'll have a meditation, as we so often do, or pretty much always do, and see where this goes, which is one of the most fun parts about it. We don't know exactly where it's going to take us. And sometimes it goes in a very different place, I think, than either of us imagine it's going to go. So here we go. And before we actually start, I do want to bring up, I have to get over here and bring up the chat. So if you're here, please say hello. And if you're new, let us know where you're from. That just moved everything around, which is odd. Now I can't find things. Have our pictures here. Okay, so before we begin, I wanted to thank you for joining us and being an emissary of love and light for the world. I think it's one of the most important things we can possibly do. And as we prepare for this time together, we generally take a few breaths. So if you're in a safe place and you want to close your eyes, just to turn a little bit more within, the idea is just to breathe, take the most amazing, beautiful breaths you can imagine from the universe, from the light around you, from our creator source. And as you exhale, you can be focusing on releasing any energy that might be holding you down. Just beautiful, full breaths. It surprises me. It always feels so good to do that.
It really does. It really does.
Right. So from here, I'd like to turn to you, Gretchen, and ask you to start us off by sharing a little bit on your perspective about this.
Right. This is such a lovely topic, I think, for this time of year, because at the end of the year, we often find ourselves doing self-reflection and kind of reviewing the year. You know, that's a typical thing at the end of the year. And of course, most people start something new in January after the turn of the year. So I think this is a lovely topic. I think what's really interesting about the stories that we tell ourselves is it can really give us a lot of profound insight into who we are. It really can help us learn more about who we are as a person, and with the understanding that we're not always going to have positive stories to tell ourselves, and that's okay. You know, the negative stories, any of the stories that we tell ourselves, they don't necessarily have to be right or wrong or true or false. It's just another way to give us a perspective, a new perspective into who we are. And I think that part of that, just in order to cultivate that more in our lives, we just need to bring our awareness to that. So when we might be having a negative story running through our minds, that we just pause and pull back and just look at that. So when we're creating positive, expansive stories like we want to do today, those can really help us pull away from that lower negative thinking too. You know, we can replace the negative stories with those beautiful, positive, expansive stories. So I think it has a lot of good, helpful information for us when we're able to tune into that, what those stories mean to us, and just to bring our awareness into what stories are we telling ourselves? What kind of stories do we tell ourselves daily? And for me, it's been a wonderful way to help understand where some of the long held beliefs that I have, either
Right.
about myself or the world, may exist. And then I can pull
Right.
back and look at them without the judgment and be more of an observer. So I think it can
Mm-hmm.
be really helpful. And I think it's a beautiful way to bring more manifestation and abundance into your life too, with the positive stories, and
Mm-hmm.
be expansive in that. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're I don't know if you'd say born. I guess in a way we're born with a story.
Mm-hmm.
We bring a lot of uh, stuff from our past into each life. We also play a role in our families when we're growing up. Like I was the good girl. I
Mm-hmm.
was the one. I wouldn't create waves. I did
That
things
was
right.
me. That
Right.
was me.
You and I have so many things
Yeah.
in common. Yeah, and my brother, he was the rebellious boy, and he was bad, and everything he did was wrong. Um, and these stories can be very archetypal. We play roles
Mhm.
that hold us in a certain framework of what might be possible. Because for me to be the good girl, for one thing, it's not a very powerful thing to be.
Right. Right.
You're looking outside of yourself for people to tell you that you're good. So
Mhm.
just always waiting for someone to tell you that you're good and that everything you're doing is okay, rather than looking within yourself for what you feel is right. And I see some people have joined us. Let me see who we have here. Oh, Nikki's here, back from
Mhm.
Panama. I heard from Sharon you went on a wonderful cruise, but you brought COVID with you. Well, yeah. Hope you're doing okay. Um, and she said she missed us. I missed you too. And Babs is here. She says, "Good morning, lovely people. Feel better soon, Nikki." Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyhow, I think that it might be nice to also start out with an angel to support us as we go through this, an archangel who can support us in opening to the story that might be the most, you could say, comprehensive and enlightening and supportive of ourselves as magnificent beings. So, would you like to do the honors, Gretchen?
Absolutely. So I am choosing a card from a very beautiful deck called the Angel Wisdom Tarot. It's really beautiful. Radley Valentine. Such an interesting name. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Valentine as a last name.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So this is actually, I believe this is Metatron. So I chose the Chariot.
Oh, wow.
Just
Wonderful.
also kind of taking us up to a lofty area. I like
Yeah,
that.
I like it. I like it on that card that it's up in the air.
Yeah, I
Not.
like it too. This is, you can't really see in the camera, but underneath it's almost magical looking, like it's kicking up like stardust or something.
Uh-huh.
It's
Right.
beautiful. Doesn't really
And
show on the card.
of course, Metatron is wonderful. Do you want to read a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Just bring that one up. So it says Archangel Metatron rides in a magical chariot guided by unicorns.
Hmm.
I didn't realize it was unicorns at first.
I didn't
So
either.
that's beautiful.
I'm pretty familiar with the card, but I didn't notice that part. And it's so interesting,
Mm-hmm.
just noticing more details about it.
It says the chariot bears the sign Metatron's cube, which brings matter into reality. And I know that the symbol on the card you chose is often referred to as the Merkaba, but it also has part of Metatron's cube, the geometric shape of
This
Metatron's cube
beautiful.
in it. Yeah, so that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Two different decks, and here we are lining up again. So this is a card of success after a culmination of hard work. And so when it appears, it may say, it says that you may be challenged by several competing priorities at once, often at odds with one another. I think that's really beautiful for this time of year too. So
Right.
lots of energy this time of year. Yeah, lots of things to do.
Right.
So this card indicates the need for great balance, diligence, and absolute focus. It also can indicate a high profile success. It's quite an accomplishment. And says you've worked hard. It's okay to take a bow and celebrate what you've achieved. And it can also mean accomplishing your dreams, work-related travel, or being in control. So I love that. Take a bow and celebrate what you've achieved. I think that's a good message for the end of the year too.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then how can you build on that if we
Right.
don't,
So we're not,
if we don't take a moment to find out all
right.
that we've done that is so wonderful, then it's hard
Right.
to.
It's a beautiful card too, because it's not saying like while you're reviewing your life, focus on all the things you didn't get done or focus on all the things you didn't do. It's actually about focus on the things that you've accomplished. And I love to encourage people to do that, especially this time of year. And what I always tell my clients is that there's nothing too small, to celebrate.
Right.
There's nothing too small to celebrate, even if it's mundane, like, oh, I got to do dishwasher. Well, that's wonderful. That makes life easier, right? It's more energy efficient. It's more efficient. Well, that's wonderful. So we need to take in even the smallest successes or accomplishments, I think, and celebrate them. We often don't do that.
Yeah. I think it also is somewhat rare to look back. Well, this time last year, where was I?
Mm-hmm.
Because
right.
If you look at it that way, then it's like, oh wow, I was really different then. I have gained a lot in this year. I've maybe accomplished a lot. I certainly have grown, and I think that's one of the big big things that we're aiming for is to be growing and challenging ourselves to grow more. So wow, that's beautiful. And of course, beautiful. Metatron is
so wonderful.
Right. It's interesting. He also is the angel in this deck he represents the magician too, who has all of the resources of the four elements at hand, and now he's taken those elements and off he goes in his chariot.
Right. And he's also often seen as the keeper of the Akashic records too, which, again, has a lot of the information that we, use in our life and need in our life. So it's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. So I was telling Gretchen also, I did a reading when I got this card a few days ago. It inspired me to do a reading, and it made me think of something we've written about, I think in different books. But we have our book, The Ultimate Paradigm Shift, which is like, where is it? What is the ultimate goal? So it is, if you want to get the most from something, you want to know, well, what's the ultimate thing that you want to achieve? And maybe you don't know exactly what that is, but if you're starting with a problem, what is the core of the problem from as much as you know about it? And there are 3 questions and 3 cards that I drew for this one. So the core problem is I asked about in the first question, what is it that I need to release? So what that would be the core problem. And I guess the story I want to tell, I had that, let me go back a little. that I'm a magnificent spiritual being with gifts to share and a purpose to fulfill. That's not a new thing from anybody who knows me. So what is it I need to release for that to happen? And I drew a card from these energy oracle cards, which are each card is energy. So it is like, what energy is that I need to focus on? And the card that I got was the sun, that I need to release my doubts about being able to shine brightly. And so from there, the second question is, if that's the core problem, the ultimate solution is what do I need to embrace? And for that one, I got a card called the Angel of Strength. And I thought that was interesting for me because it's not something I focus on, like having power and strength. And I think it is something that I need to be able to fully embrace my magnificence. So I thought, wow, that's great. And then the third question is, how do I get from the core problem to the solution? And the card that I got for that one is called indecision. So what I felt from that is that I needed to be decisive. And it's interesting because I think that the power and strength and decisiveness all come together, like Archangel Michael, kind of just really embracing that quality of power and strength, which in the fire, becoming decisive, not wavering around like, oh, here, maybe there, I don't know. So I got so much from that little reading, and you can use those same questions. So the first one is, what do I need to release? What do I need to embrace? And how can I best support myself? How do I get from the problem to the solution? And I found that very helpful. I actually did another layer with it too. I kind of just go in. I have this other deck. I use a lot of decks of cards I'm experimenting with. There's this one, it's called Story Cards. And this one also is just energy. So it is, and it is wonderful when you think of telling a story. So the card that I got, the first one for number 1, about the sun rising up to that place where I could shine. The card that I got is Mystic, which made me think of rising above again, just that same thing. The second card I got for what I needed to embrace was confidence. And that made sense. It's kind of like it's just another thing that supported the first one I got with power and strength. And I think confidence, self-esteem, to me feels like a 4th chakra quality. How do I feel about myself? Confidence is more of a 3rd chakra quality, about where's the power coming from. It's kind of more of an action, becoming confident and confidently moving forward. And then for the third one, how can I get from the problem to the solution? What I got was wisdom, open to my inner wisdom. So that's one way of doing it with, and I think I find oracle cards just almost always doing readings provide so much more in terms of insight for me to go through whatever it is that I'm wanting to address.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I get something out of it. Even if I don't fully understand the card, I can usually go into the imagery or, see what colors in the card resonate, or the artwork, or some piece of it usually gives me some insight. So
right. And it may not be what you think, because like for that first card, I said, what do I need to release? And the card I got was the sun. And I thought, I don't want to get, the light. I don't want to get rid of the light. But it was, I think I always also intend to see the upside and the downside. What is, it's kind of like the reverse of, it's not what I need to release, it's what I need to gain, what releasing will provide me. I need to release the blocks to arriving at the sun. So intuition is really important in that.
Right.
And it's a good, I think the oracle cards are a great way to build intuition. Like you were saying, you look at the card and you see the colors, the imagery, just look at what might be striking you about it. I want to just, I have to show you these cards from, these story cards are really beautiful. This one, so this is an example. Ooh. The card is called Nurture.
Beautiful.
And so you can just go into the card, and just feel what it is that you need to nurture. Here's one. This is kind of really pretty. Giving. Nice. It looks like the mother bird giving to the baby bird. So beautiful. These are, and I like these. They're
really creative.
Yeah, they're very creative. She's a very creative artist, the person who created this. This one is called Release.
Nice.
So she's releasing this black balloon for whatever reason. And anyhow, you can go into that story. And there is actually, with these, there's not much other than the cards. And you can just go into the image and the story. Here, this is really beautiful too. Serenity.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, we have so much support also at this time. I think even 5 or 10 years ago, the number of oracle cards and things that were available, supportive kind of things, was not anywhere near what we have now. They're just so incredible.
Yeah, I agree. It's so creative too. And they're really positive. I love that, a lot of the ones that I'm looking at now are just really positive, and they're even, when things aren't terrific, they're still positive and uplifting, when the card means something like that. Yeah.
Well, and there is a positive, and there is a constructive, you could say positive, however you want to say it. And also there's what is called a reversal a lot of times, which might be the negative, and it might be reversed, where you actually, where the positive sounds more like a negative, but you realize that it's in a way reversed, so it means something other than what your first impression might be. Like you think, oh, this doesn't really make sense for what's happening here. And then you think, well, look at it differently. Look at it if you turned it around or put it somehow in a different frame. How would that change it?
Right.
Or like the Chariot card, even so, if you don't feel like you're flying, in a chariot with unicorns or whatever, what's holding you back? So there's, within each card, it's all positive.
Right.
Like if you find out, if you look at it and you say, well, gee, I'm not feeling like I'm light enough to be able to float in the air like that. Well, what does that mean to you?
Right. Yeah, what's holding you down? Yeah.
Right, what's holding you down?
Right.
So it just, I think to me, it takes me, like with the idea of the angel of strength, connecting with the angel of strength. It's not something I would think of, even if I connect with my soul, and it's just not that much built into, I guess, the core of the traits that I have right now in this life. But it made perfect sense. And then I can see, well, yes, of course I can embrace this. I might not have thought of it, but that's the value of the whole card thing.
Right. I think in using the oracle cards too, it really does help. It increases for me questions to ask, my self-inquiry.
Right.
It leads me to another question, which leads me to another question, in ways that probably other tools may not as clearly for me. So I really enjoy using them too for those reasons, to help keep those questions flowing. To help me dig a little deeper. So yeah.
So with those in terms of coming up with a more expansive view of ourselves, however we do it, still those questions are very helpful to consider. Like, what is it that I need to release to open fully to my magnificence, if that's what you want?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what can I embrace that maybe I never thought of before?
Right, right.
And you can just open to your intuition and see what comes there. There are, and this is another thing with oracles that's interesting, is cards obviously are serve very different purposes. And the two that I was using, the energy cards and the story cards, both of them, each of the card is an energy. It isn't the same as the tarot, which is, it's kind of, each card is a story
Mm-hmm.
in itself, you know, and it's providing guidance on direction, etc. These are more like energy. Like this one is about light, you know, the sun, the light. So what about it? That's the question for you. What about it? Um, any other thoughts before we go into the meditation?
I don't think so. I think that's really beautiful. And I love how you talk about, you know, looking at the reverse meaning. You know, a lot of the tarot cards have a reverse meaning. Not all oracle cards do, but I think it's a lovely way to just develop more of that self-inquiry. And if the upright version, I don't generally think too much on the reverse version. You know, I don't really like, if I get a card upside down, I generally don't think it's automatically the reverse meaning. But I think it is a good way to kind of look at both sides, you know, and to see what's right for you in that way. So I think it's beautiful reminder that, you know, it might lead to other questions, you know, like you were saying. I think that's important too, you know.
Right, right. Well, there was
Yeah.
that one card that I got, and I can't remember the exact description of it, but it was about being caught in a storm. And you and I talked about it too. And it was a scene. The scene on the card was a very turbulent, stormy time, and at the shore with the ocean, with these big waves crashing and everything. And I thought, gosh, you know, I was feeling pretty good until I saw this. I don't know what's going on here. And then I went into the card. Actually, this is a technique. You can just imagine you're in that scene, and what is it then that's happening? And what it was saying is that I was on this shore, you know, helping the people out of the storm. And so it was completely different from what you might first think, and then rather than reject it, just to allow yourself to embrace it and find out what it is for you. And I think that's what you said. You said, well, I think you said you thought right away that that was what it was, but I didn't.
Right.
I didn't think. I thought, I don't know what this is.
Well, that's a good point, because we may not in the moment, you know, it's a
Right.
good reminder to not take everything at face value too, just to dig a little deeper and see what's true for you, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And I do see you as somebody who helps people out of the stormy seas. Not that you're in the stormy seas, you know, but
Right. You better not be.
right. I mean, until you went into that card, you didn't realize that either, you know, that's what it really means. So I think there's a lot more. I mean, you can go so deep with cards. It's amazing how many different things you can use and do with them, you know, in different ways. So it's really beautiful. But that's a great example too. Just don't look at everything face value, you know, look a little deeper.
Right. Or if you're in a challenge and then you see, you know, something like, oh, it's all bright and airy, you know. Well, then if you're not feeling it, then why? You know, what is it that you need to embrace to be in that place? That if it's saying maybe this is the solution.
Right, because that leads me down to thinking, if I get a card and it doesn't make any sense to me, my first question is, why am I not resonating? What's up? And it may require me to walk away for a little while and come back to the card later, and that's fine. I generally almost always have more insight than I did when I first looked at the card. So sometimes that really is, I think, just to lead you down that path of questioning and going just a little deeper and a little deeper, and a little further until we come up with the answers. And sometimes our wisdom is like that, you know, it wants us to kind of seek it out so that we can find the best wisdom for us. And like I
Right.
said, what's true for us. So yeah,
Right.
it's beautiful.
Yeah. And sometimes, and we've talked about this too, we were talking about it earlier. Sometimes we'll get the same card over and over.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's telling us, well, you're not quite getting it yet.
Mhm.
Just look at it again.
Right. And in relation to our topic today about the stories that we tell ourselves, I think that is kind of like, look at the story a little closer. You know, maybe
Right.
there is a story around this that we tell ourselves that we can release right now, that we can let go, that's no longer serving us. And even if
Right.
we get to that little piece, that's huge. You know, that's something to be celebrated for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's quite remarkable.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do then in our meditation is we often go up someplace higher, which is really the place to go to get a higher perspective, and doing it together. I think that we build a stronger connection with the light. So starting out, you might start out with, what is a story I tell myself that is keeping me down, keeping me in the mud, or feeling like I'm entrenched in something, or like I'm imprisoned by something, because there's always a way out. So we can start there. And if there's nothing, just see what comes up. So we can begin again, closing your eyes if you're in a safe place to do so, and breathing in that beautiful love and light from the universe around you. And just noticing the world that we're in, the 3D world, um, where there are so many stories going around, that we can catch them, kind of like you catch COVID or a cold or something. They catch on with us, like, well, this can never happen. This is just not possible. Those kinds of stories, and then you end up feeling less and less confident. Whatever it is, if there's something maybe that could be illuminated some more, or just being open to that possibility that there's in some way there could be something illumined more. We can also open our hearts to the love that we hold in our hearts, as we open to lighter energy, and invite Archangel Metatron to join us, imagining him coming closer to us on that beautiful chariot with the unicorns and all of the sparkles around it. Um, and his energy is often experienced as a beautiful, luminous white light. Could have sparkles in it. Mine usually does for me. Sparkles are fiery energy, so it is a light, brighter light. And just ask him to surround you with the perfect luminous light for you. As we open to rising higher, just imagine the chariot now rising up. And we're going to a higher place. It might be a mountaintop, or a little higher, the mystical mountaintop. And what I'm really aiming for personally is to rise all the way through the atmosphere, meaning above all of the mass consciousness thought forms, into the universe, just free flowing in the universe. And like I said, if another place feels more perfect to you to enlighten your story, that's fine. Just focusing on that freedom of being free of all of the stories we're told we need to be living out. And imagine breathing in more of that free flowing, loving light energy, and allowing anything that isn't serving you here to flow down through your body and out into the universe to be transmuted back into light. So you can feel freer with every breath. And maybe there's a star that has a message for you. Just to me, sometimes the star will shine brightly and it has something for me. Or maybe there's a messenger there for you, an angel or some other being of light. About what kind of story you could open to in this new year, what you can give birth to, maybe something you've never thought of before. And opening to more fully maybe than ever, maybe, or than generally, opening to that magnificence of who you are, feeling that in your body, bringing it down from source. It's light. So we just bring in more of our own light. And of course, Metatron is very helpful in doing this because he's an angel, is considered to be one of the angels who are closest to God, to our Creator. So you can ask for more of the luminous light from him, whatever feels right to you. Allow it to flow all around you, into your body, into all of the cells. And those spaces, there are more spaces than there are matter, than there is matter in the body. And what we want is for the light to flow freely, the energy to flow freely through us, through the body. That causes the electrons in the atoms in our body to flow faster. So we want to speed up the electrons. It's more life, more of the life we are here to live. And with that, straightening up your body and asking yourself, what is it that I can give birth to now that maybe I haven't thought of before? And with that, what can you let go of that you no longer need, that is no longer serving you? The need of being something your parents believed about you, or your friends, or your teachers, or your spouse, or your relatives. The stories that people tell you about yourself, that may have no truth in them at all. They're reflections of their perception of reality, not yours. So just letting all of that go in whatever ways you can. It might bring you back to different experiences that you've had in your life, realizing, well, gee, that really did impact the way I perceive myself. And it doesn't have to be that way anymore. I can let go of that and open more freely to the truth of who I am and why I'm here. Why are you here? So, Gretchen, you want to share anything you're noticing?
Sure. When you had said going into it, certain things aren't possible, that's not possible, and those stories we tell ourselves, I heard Metatron say to me, why not? And then I was reminded of the word impossible really separated as I'm possible. And it made me think about why, to look at things in that way. Why wouldn't it be possible? Why is it impossible? Why do you feel this way?
Mm-hmm.
And when we were releasing, when you were asking if there was anything to release, I saw a big stack of books next to me, and I would pick up one and kind of leaf through it and say, nope, and toss it out. It just kind of went sailing out into the universe, like, nope, don't believe that one anymore. Next book, and I'm leafing through it real quickly, and it's like, nope, toss that book out too. So it's like there are, for me, it's like there are volumes of things that I need to release around what I think is possible and impossible, and to change the perspective. Because I love, I don't know who created that saying, but the fact that you can separate the word impossible into I'm possible, and that's ultimately what it really means. And I think it brings me back to the I am too, which
Right.
is our deeper connection to the universe. But I love how Metatron was just kind of sitting there next to me, like, why not? Why isn't it possible? Why does it feel impossible to you? So it leads me immediately into questioning and doing that self-inquiry we were just speaking of, about using the oracle cards. It's the same thing. Why isn't it possible? And to
Right.
look at that, and that helps me uncover those beliefs that I've held on to, these volumes of beliefs that I need to just let go. So it feels very it felt very full circle, because I went from feeling impossible to why is it impossible, to then releasing the things that I've believed are impossible. So it's a really beautiful experience. And I feel like I love Metatron, because I feel like he has a good sense of humor. At least he does with me.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
think they all do. The angels are
yeah,
light.
yeah. So yeah, it's really beautiful. I think the wisdom too is that it's all within us. We need to remove what we feel is impossible to get to the truth.
Right. Right.
So yeah, that's why it's important to let go of those things that are no longer serving us, because they just hinder the progress of seeing that light that we're bringing in. It's almost
Right.
like it's like seeing the sun through a dirty window. If we
Right.
can
Right.
clean that
Yeah.
window, a little bit, we can see that the light's always been there. We've just been shielding it somehow and keeping it from penetrating. So
Right. Right. And it's like, well, I think some of the masters call it effluvia, um,
mhm,
in the energy. So what you
mhm,
were saying is bringing in more light, bringing, um, allowing the light to flow more freely through you
mhm.
by removing all of that stuff
Right,
that
right. And
is
it's all
actually, it's kind of like mire, more of the mire that holds us
right,
down, just to
right.
release that so that there is energy flowing freely through us. And then we can see that we're light too.
Right. It's like pulling a blanket over your head when you're a little child, saying, "Oh, you can't see me," but it's like the light's already been there. It's like, take the blanket off your head, because it's already it's been there the whole time. It's
Right,
it's the limitations we put on ourselves that block out that light. So
right. And I think mentioning Metatron or inviting an angel to be with us, the value of connecting with the archangels, and specifically the archangels, because they're some of the angels who are closest to the creator, who have very high vibrational frequencies that they can help us, support us in, so they can support us in raising our own frequency in pretty dramatic ways. Having them around us, it changes things.
mhm,
I think you can't do it with an open heart and a spirit that's open to receiving all of that love and light and insight without being changed by it.
mm, yeah.
So I would see also at this time of year, if you think you don't have enough gifts for Christmas, open to the angels,
Mhm.
because they're, each one is a gift each time they come to us. And they can, like you were saying, Gretchen, they can help us to answer those questions. They can ask us
Mhm.
questions that we haven't thought about.
Right. Right. Just that simple question was very helpful, to kind of get me started, and then
Mm-hmm.
that sends me down this path of other questions that can lead you
Right.
to really wondrous places too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just from this perspective, being free flowing, and this is one of my daily goals, to be in the flow, above the fray. So just staying in this place where I'm in a flowing state and I'm above all of the stuff that's going on below me in the mass consciousness, those thought forms, regardless of what the news is saying, regardless of any of it. this is the greatest gift we can give ourselves, is not to believe it, to find out what is really true for us and what the story is of what we're doing, why we're here. So with that, we can prepare to come back to where we started. And of course, you can come back to this place, wherever you went. That's perfect for you. You can come back anytime and receive more. And you can always invite an angel to join you. So we'll just start now drifting back down into our seats and with our feet firmly on the floor or ground, grounded to the earth, and sending some of that light and love to Mother Earth too. Just bringing it right down into the earth. And of course, with that, we receive love from Mother Earth also as we ground ourselves. And then breathing in more active energy, returning to our normal waking states. And bringing also, we can bring the energy, whatever energy we're embracing, back with us. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
That was lovely.
Yeah, and I got the impression I mentioned the whole thing about power and strength with the message from Metatron, and what I felt is I can be grounded and I can be strong. I think that's another part. A lot of, I think, women who are spiritually focused also are very sensitive, which is a good thing. But it also it makes it challenging to feel strong because things can throw you off so easily. Right. And we have to learn how to deal with that too. But it is, I feel more grounded and strong, which is wonderful. It's a gift. And I can take that with me into the new year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I did want to mention, while we're on all these cards, there are 3 different decks that I use in the evenings before I retire that I really love because they're so inspiring. And of course, that inspiration can lead me into, like that card, into something that becomes a message for the next day. So there's this one, the secret language of light. There's another one, this one, the Oracle of the Hidden Worlds, which is also beautiful. It just takes you to takes you to another world. And this third one is similar, the Oracle of Portals. And they all have that same quality of taking you into a different vibrational field where you can perceive yourself in a different way, to open to something possibly that you haven't considered before. And I love doing it in the evening. And then as I'm retiring, drifting off to sleep, I have something magical and mystical to focus on.
Yeah. Those are lovely cards.
Yeah, all of them are great cards. So any other thoughts? I guess we could, any other thoughts before we open to sending the love out? Okay, it's perfect.
I'm in a blissful state.
I know. Well, that's what we want, to be in that place where we have lots of love to share with the world. You can imagine sharing that love, that light, that sense of wonder and magnificence out to the whole world, to your community, to people you love who need some. We can send some healing energy to Nikki, recovering from COVID, to those places where people are threatened by wars. And of course, just understanding when you do this, you become a point of light that's lighting up the world. And if you invite others to join you, um, you can share that goal of becoming light for the world. And just imagining more and more people shining more and more light to the world. What that does is it transforms the mass consciousness thought forms, the power of that, the density of it. It brings more and more light into it. And that's what we can do. So we just light up the whole world with love. And imagine that world. Keep focused on what is possible. It is possible to have a world where love is the guiding force. And just imagine what that would mean. Mean a lot of different things from what we're seeing now. Any thoughts on that, Gretchen?
It's just beautiful to think that we are little beacons of light. It's beautiful, and to see how we can really increase that when we connect with others of a like mind. And
Right.
it's a beautiful, and to know that it is happening. It's working. We're
Right.
sending
It
that
is
energy
happening.
out. Yeah.
And it is, I think it is the increase in light, and that the vibration of the planet is rising. That's what's causing so many people to who are not embracing it to dig in their heels and and create problems for the world.
Right.
But it seems like it's a necessary stage that we have to go through. People have to decide,
right,
which way am I going? Am I going or not? I think we're going. Okay, so Gretchen, would you like to tell people a little more about what's happening in your world and how they might want to contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. So coming next month, I'm actually doing a weekend training retreat to connect more with the crystal deva. And so those are the spirits of crystals and stones, and working with those. It's going to be a weekend retreat here in Virginia, and so that's kind of my new endeavor. But people can connect with me at spiraljourney.net. That's my website. It has the most comprehensive list of all of my services. Or you can connect with me here on Facebook under Gretchen Comer or Spiral Journey Holistic Life Services. So thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. And for Awakenings Institute, at the beginning of the year, we're going to start a year-long program with 3 courses. The first one being Abundant Living with Angels, Oracles, and EFT, using angelic EFT and all of these other things that we've been focusing on, for instance, today. And you can find out more about that Abundant Living course and the other things. There's also a free excerpt from our latest book, Awakening to Your Magnificence, in there. And I'm going to give you a tiny URL for it, tinyurl.com/abundance of angels, all in one. And it is at our gettingthrough.org, GETTINGTHRU.org is our website. The page is gettingthrough.org/spiritual/abundant-living. So that's why I use the tiny URL, because it's a little easier. But we'd love to have you visit us and connect also with our latest book, which is explaining kind of how we feel about shifting into a world where we can be connected with angels and masters and the nature spirits, and having more of that expansive experience of oneness with everything that is here for us, all the blessings, which we so much deny as humans. So that's what we're opening to again at the beginning of the year. And next week, Gretchen and Philip and Enlightened World Network people like Ruth Anderson and Terry are going to be with us, and some others. We have our spiritual gift giving circle, which is one of our favorite events of the year, where we're all going to share spiritual gifts. So no one needs to feel like you're not receiving gifts this holiday season. So that's going to be at the same time, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern, next Sunday, December 17th. And we would love to have you join us. In the meantime, you can support the circle by following our page on Facebook, sharing this video with your friends, getting the word out more, helping people to connect more with love and light for themselves, which is it's a gift in itself, I think, if we give ourselves. And then invite your friends to join you in the circle, then you have something to share. And then the final thing we do is send that love and light out into the week ahead. You can send it out as far as you want. You can also send it to your past, healing your past, sending more light to those parts of you that struggled in your past. And have a wonderful week. Thank you for joining us.